I still remember the first time I saw her car parked right across my driveway, sleek, shiny, smug in the way it sat there like it owned the concrete beneath it. Karen. That's what everyone in the neighborhood called her, though not always to her face. She was the self-appointed queen of the HOA, strutting around like she had the deed to every house on the block, barking rules, handing out violations, and reminding everyone that standards must be maintained. Standards. That word echoed in my head like a taunt every time I heard it from her lips. Standards apparently meant her word was law and everyone else was beneath her authority. That morning I had somewhere to be. I woke up early, showered, dressed, and was ready to head out. The sun was warm on the pavement, and for once I actually felt a little optimistic about the day. I grabbed my keys, walked to the garage, hit the opener, and there it was, a giant red SUV sitting squarely across my driveway. No mistake, no accidental misparking. It was deliberate, a blockade. And when I looked at the plates, when I saw the bumper stickers I'd memorized from her constant presence at HOA meetings, I knew it was hers. Karen. At first, I just stood there, blinking, hopping. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe she had an emergency, maybe she broke down, maybe she would come running out with her usual fake smile and say, "Oh, sorry about that, I'll move it right now." But no, her blinds were drawn, her front door closed, and the car sat there, silent, smug, immovable. My chest burned with the kind of anger you can't swallow. I dialed her number, straight to voicemail. I walked to her door and knocked. No answer, louder knock, still nothing. I could feel my patience unraveling thread by thread. I muttered to myself, of course she would do this. Because Karen didn't just exist in this neighborhood, she reigned over it. She thrived on petty power moves, finding new ways to make everyone's life a little harder, a little more miserable. I'd already got letters from her for leaving my trash can out too long, for having non-compliant paint on my mailbox, for daring to let my grass grow a fraction higher than she thought acceptable. But blocking my garage, this wasn't about rules. This was about control. I paced back and forth, breathing heavy, fists clenched. My car sat trapped inside, useless, and I felt trapped with it. Minutes passed, then half an hour. Finally, I saw her blinds twitch and her door cracked open. She stepped outside in her bathrobe, coffee mug in hand, face smug like a cat that had cornered its prey. "Morning," she said casually, as if nothing was wrong. I swallowed hard. "Karen, move your car, I have somewhere to be." She sipped her coffee, unbothered. "I will, eventually, but you know, I've been meaning to talk to you about the color of those curtains in your living room. They don't really match the neighborhood aesthetic. And your grass." "Karen," my voice cracked with rage, "move your car." She raised her eyebrows, fake innocent. "Is that how we speak to each other in this community, with hostility?" Hostility, that word nearly broke me. She was gaslighting me, turning her blatant sabotage into my problem. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "You've got 10 seconds. She smirked. "Or what?" My stomach twisted. I could feel the heat rising up my neck into my face. She thought she'd won. She thought she had me powerless. And for a moment I felt exactly that. Powerless. Because what was I supposed to do? Call a tow truck? Wait hours? Beg her? No, something inside me snapped that morning. I stormed back inside, every step echoing with fury. I couldn't think straight, I couldn't breathe. I kept seeing her face, that smug smirk, that condescending tone. She wasn't going to move her car until she felt like it. She wasn't going to budge because she thought she had all the power. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have possibly predicted, was just how far I was willing to go when pushed too far. For the next hour, I tried everything. I called the non-emergency police line. They told me it was a civil matter. I called a towing company. They said because it was a public street, not a private driveway, they couldn't tow without HOA approval. HOA approval. That meant her approval. My fists shook as I hung up the phone. I was trapped in a system she controlled, and she knew it. Every tick of the clock scraped at my nerves. I imagined the day slipping away, my schedule ruined, my life disrupted because one woman decided she could park wherever she wanted. I stared at that SUV like it was a barricade between me and freedom. And in that moment, the idea hit me, wild, reckless, unhinged. What if I didn't tow it? What if I didn't wait for her? What if I removed it in a way she couldn't stop, couldn't predict, couldn't control? I made calls. I knew a guy, a contractor I'd worked with years ago who still owed me a favor. He knew people with equipment, people who could move anything, anywhere. When I explained what I wanted, there was silence on the line. Then laughter, then, "You're crazy, but I'll do it." By the time the sun hit noon, a flatbed truck rolled quietly into the neighborhood. Karen wasn't outside. Maybe she thought I'd given up, maybe she thought she'd broken me. But the second I saw that crane unfold, steel arms reaching like the wings of vengeance, I felt something I hadn't felt all day: control. The men got to work fast, wrapping chains under the SUV, securing it with precision. My heart pounded, sweat dripped down my back, but I didn't stop them. I didn't hesitate. I watched as Karen's car, her throne, her weapon, was hoisted into the air like a toy, and I swear to God in that moment I felt a surge of pure satisfaction. But satisfaction wasn't enough. No, she needed to feel what I'd felt. Trapped, helpless, humiliated. I told the men where to take it, not the impound lot, not even her own driveway. No, I gave them the mayor's address. The very same mayor Karen bragged about being close friends with, the one she always said had her back. If she wanted power, if she wanted politics, I'd give her politics. As the truck pulled away with her SUV dangling behind it, I finally exhaled. My garage was free, my driveway was clear, but deep down I knew this was only the beginning. Because Karen wasn't going to let this go, and neither was I. When the flatbed disappeared down the street, I felt a rush of adrenaline, the kind that leaves your hands trembling even when you're standing still. For a moment the neighborhood was quiet, almost eerily so, as if the world itself had paused to see what I'd done. My garage stood open, my car waiting like a prisoner, finally freed, and I wanted to take it and drive away. But I didn't. I stayed, because I knew what was coming. Karen didn't disappoint. 15 minutes later, her front door burst open like an explosion. She stormed out, hair wild, robe flapping, face twisted with rage. She looked first at the empty street, then at me, and when our eyes locked, the silence shattered. "Where is my car?" Her voice wasn't just angry, it was venom, dripping, poisonous. I leaned against my porch railing, arms crossed, steadying my voice. "Not here anymore." Her jaw dropped, then clenched so hard I thought her teeth might shatter. "You had no right, no right," she screamed it so loud, windows down the block rattled. "That's destruction of property, that's theft." I shook my head slowly, savoring the way her composure cracked. "No, theft would mean I kept it. I didn't. It's safe, just relocated." She stomped toward me, every step like thunder. "Relocated where?" I met her fury with cold calm. "Mayor's lawn." Her face went pale, then red, then pale again, like a storm cloud flashing lightning. "You didn't." "I did." The scream she let out was primal, the kind of sound you only hear from someone whose entire illusion of control just collapsed. She spun on her heel, hands flailing, muttering curses under her breath. I could practically see the gears in her head turning, trying to figure out how to fix this, how to spin it so she still came out on top. She whipped back around, eyes narrowing into daggers. "Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? I run this neighborhood. I own this HOA. I will bury you in fines, in lawsuits, in every regulation you've ever signed. You will regret this day for the rest of your miserable life." I stepped down from the porch, closing the distance, my voice low but sharp. "No, Karen, for once you will regret something. You think you're untouchable because you hide behind rules and titles, because you scare people into silence. But not me, not anymore. You want a war, you've got one." For a moment we just stood there, two forces locked in a standoff, her face twitching with rage, mine burning with defiance. The whole street had gone quiet, curtains shifting as neighbors peeked out, watching, waiting. And then she snapped. "Fine," she screamed, spittle flying. "You want war, let's have war." She stormed back inside, slamming her door so hard the frame shook. I stood there, heart pounding, every nerve on fire. I didn't know exactly what she'd do next, but I knew it wouldn't be over, not even close. The phone calls started that afternoon. First, a notice slipped into my mailbox, a formal violation for unauthorized removal of property. Then came the emails, long rants filled with legal jargon, threats of board meetings, hearings, fines. She even tried calling the police again, but when the officers showed up, I calmly explained what had happened. They shrugged, said it was a civil matter, and left. Every time she tried to tighten her grip, it slipped a little more through her fingers. But Karen wasn't the type to stop when she was losing. No, she doubled down. The next day I woke up to find bright orange stickers plastered across my front windows. "Violation pending." My mailbox had been stuffed with HOA pamphlets, citations, warnings. She even had landscapers come by and measure my grass with a ruler, claiming it was a 1/4 inch too long. I tore the stickers off, threw the papers in the trash, and laughed. A bitter, hollow laugh. She thought she could bury me under paperwork, under bureaucracy, but the truth was, the more she attacked, the more desperate she looked, and the neighborhood saw it. That's when the whispers started. Neighbors I barely spoke to before suddenly stopped me on walks, quietly saying things like, "Good job standing up to her," or "About time someone did something." One even chuckled, "Mayor's lawn, huh, legendary." The more support I felt, the stronger I grew and the angrier she became. 3 nights later, she showed up on my porch unannounced. No robe this time, no coffee mug. She was dressed sharp, almost militaristic, hair pinned tight, clipboard in hand, but her eyes, those eyes were pure fire. "You think you've won some kind of victory here?" she hissed. "You humiliated me. Do you have any idea the calls I've had to make, the strings I've had to pull to get my car back?" The mayor was furious. "My reputation is ruined." I tilted my head. "Goods, now you know how it feels to be humiliated." Her nostrils flared. "Don't play games with me, boy. You've made an enemy you can't handle. You think this neighborhood likes you now? Wait until I'm through with you. I'll make sure you're fined every week, dragged into every hearing until your life is nothing but paperwork and misery. You'll beg me for mercy." Her words were sharp, but underneath I heard something else: desperation, fear. She was flailing, drowning, and she wanted to drag me down with her. I leaned in close, my voice steady, deliberate. "You already tried mercy's opposite. Didn't work out so well for you, did it?" Her lips curled into a snarl. "This isn't over." And she stormed off into the night, leaving the echo of her threats behind. I stood in the doorway long after she was gone, pulse racing, adrenaline buzzing through my veins. I knew she was serious. Karen wasn't just talk, she was schemes, connections, manipulation. She'd come back harder, meaner, more dangerous. And for the first time I realized this wasn't just about a car anymore, it was bigger. It was about power, about control, about who owned the narrative of this neighborhood. And I wasn't about to lose. The morning after her midnight threat, I woke to the sound of hammering. At first I thought maybe one of the neighbors had hired a contractor, but when I opened my blinds I froze. Karen was outside on my property, nailing a giant wooden sign into the edge of my front lawn. The bold black letters screamed, "Non-compliant property under review." My blood boiled so hot I thought I might collapse. I stormed out barefoot, fists clenched. "Get off my lawn, Karen." She didn't even look at me. HOA business, perfectly within my rights. This house is a disgrace to the community. "You think you can just stake claims on my property?" I shouted, voice cracking. "You don't own me, Karen." That got her attention. She turned slowly, lips curling into a smirk that made my stomach twist. "Oh, but I do. Every rule you signed when you moved in gives me authority. And if you think your little stunt with the car makes you untouchable, think again. I will strip this house from you piece by piece until you have nothing left." Something in me snapped. I marched forward, grabbed the sign, and ripped it out of the ground, wood splintering in my hands. "Not on my property," I hissed, throwing it into the street. Her eyes went wide for just a second, shock, but then the fire came back, hotter, brighter. "That's destruction of HOA property. You're finished." She jabbed her finger in my face, so close I could feel her nail graze my skin. I swatted her hand away, voice shaking with fury. "No, Karen, you're finished." The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. She stared at me, nostrils flaring, breath quick. For a moment I thought she might actually hit me. Instead, she turned on her heel and marched back toward her house, muttering, "We'll see, we'll see." By noon, I knew what she meant. An official envelope landed on my doorstep, notice of foreclosure review. My heart pounded as I read the accusations: non-compliant landscaping, structural violations, hostile conduct toward HOA representatives, hostile conduct toward her. She was building a case, laying the foundation to take everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my living room, replaying every word, every smirk, every smug look she'd ever given me. I could feel her in my walls, in my veins, like poison. She wouldn't stop until I was ruined. And then, like lightning in the dark, an idea struck me. If Karen wanted to drag me through the mud, I'd drown her in it first. The next morning, I started knocking on doors. Quietly at first, then louder. Neighbors who had whispered their support now opened up. Stories poured out: Karen fining one family for having a basketball hoop, threatening another over their Christmas lights, harassing a widower about his fence. Each account was fuel, feeding a fire that had been smoldering for years. People were scared, resentful, exhausted, and all of it pointed back to her. I gathered statements, photos, even video clips. One neighbor had caught her screaming at a teenager for parking too close to a curb. Another had emails where she threatened legal escalation over a garden gnome. Piece by piece, her empire of intimidation cracked. But I didn't stop there. I called in favors, the same kind I'd used to airlift her SUV. A friend connected me with a local reporter who loved stories about corruption and abuse of power. When I told him everything, every detail of Karen's reign of terror, his eyes lit up. "This'll sell. People hate HOAs." By the end of the week, an article hit the local news. HOA Tarrant faces backlash after garage blockade escalates into scandal. My name wasn't in it, but hers was, full, in bold, with quotes from neighbors, screenshots of her threats, photos of her ridiculous fines, and at the center of it all, her car dangling over the mayor's pristine lawn like the cherry on top of her humiliation. The fallout was immediate. My phone buzzed nonstop with texts from neighbors, legendary move, she's melting down, finally someone exposed her. But Karen, she was a volcano. That evening, she marched across my yard again, hair wild, eyes blazing, hands trembling as she pointed at me. You think you've destroyed me? You think this little stunt makes you a hero? You don't know what you've started. I stepped onto my porch, meeting her fury with steady calm. I started freedom. I started truth. You can't scare people anymore, Karen, not when they know who you really are. Her voice cracked into a shriek. They'll regret siding with you. I'll take this whole neighborhood down before I let you win. The neighbors.